Well, the Cavaliers look to run the NBA's third best home record to 10-1 when the Orlando Magic come to town. And today we are checking in to get the view from the other side as we talk with Magic play-by-play man Jake Chapman. It's the Cavs Insider Podcast coming your way right now. Well, hey, how we doing, Cleveland? Thanks for joining us here on the Cavs Insider Podcast. John Rudder with you here on the Cavs Insider YouTube page. You can, of course, follow along with our coverage, our game day coverage on Twitter and Instagram at Cavs Insider_FM. And, of course, here on the Cavs Insider YouTube page. Got a good one on tap for you with the Orlando Magic in town tonight. Figured it would be a good time to check in with our old friend, Jake Chapman. And if you're a sports fan here in Northeast Ohio, that name should sound familiar. Formerly of 92.3 The Fan on the Baskin and Phelps Show, hosting as well as the Cleveland Browns radio network. Now your radio voice of the Orlando Magic. My friend, how are you? It's good to check in with you. How is life in Florida treating you?
John, I'm good, buddy. How are you? It's good to hear from you. I see you've been doing big things, interviewing Bernie Kosar and all kinds of fun stuff. Your photography, it brings me back home. And I miss Northeast Ohio this time of year. I don't necessarily miss the 28 degrees or whatever you guys are getting right now. I got some yard work done today, if it gives you any sort of perspective. But all summer, I spent like 6 weeks in the summer in Northeast Ohio because it's too hot down here. So we pay for it in the summer months.
Awesome. Yeah, the Bernie interview was your typical 92.3 The Fan switcheroo. There were some call-offs. You got the call from the Pooh Boss saying, hey, can you be here at 10 o'clock to fill in with Jason Lloyd? So I figured, yeah, well, why not? Wouldn't miss it for that.
And then Bernie shows up.
Bernie shows up. You could not beat it. So it was quintessential Cleveland there for the holidays at the Feed Your Need event. We loved it. Yeah. We had a lot of fun.
Outstanding.
Well, we appreciate your time here. Cavs and Magic coming at you Friday night from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And we're talking about a pair of Eastern Conference teams really at opposite ends of the standing right now. Orlando, to me, Jake, is an interesting team when you look at them because on paper, look, they got a lot of great, nice pieces. We'll get to Paolo Banchero here in just a minute. But what's been kind of the source of this team's struggles so far this season?
Injuries. They've got far more games lost to injury than any other team in the league. It's well over 100 at this point. I mean, you're talking about 5 guys missing every night. And so it sounds like an excuse, but it's also, it's a reality. And now you've got guys who have been playing through it, guys like Franz Wagner, who are starting to rack up the minutes and rack up nagging injuries as well. So it's just been start and stop all season. Even guys like Paolo Banchero, who obviously we're very, very excited about. His numbers are insane for a rookie this early in his career, and he's going to be very, very good. He missed 7 games with a nagging ankle injury. So you haven't really been able to get anything going. And even still, you're a young team, John, and these things don't happen overnight. And so I think patience is probably important. But at some point, guys got to get out there and play, and that's been frustrating so far.
Well, you touched on Paolo Banchero and the injury, missing 7 games, I believe it was, with an ankle injury. I did see that he returned this week. Seems like he kind of picked up immediately where he left off. What's your impressions of the young guy? I think the last time the Cavs saw him dropping 29 points. Look, what's the ceiling for this guy?
It's pure excitement. I mean, he's really, really good. Like, we were in Brooklyn the other night, and Durant gave us 45 on 14 of 18 shooting or something insane. And then after the game, and this is sort of a scoop that we got, he initiated the jersey swap with Paolo Banchero, and it ended up on social media. I don't know if it came across your guys' desks, or your feeds. But they did a jersey swap, and he wrote, P, the work don't stop. And it turns out, according to the ball boy at Barclays Center, like, KD initiated that, and KD doesn't typically initiate that. So, he's gaining respect kind of with all of those games from guys across the league. And you saw it, dude, from like the opening tap on opening night. He can just score. Basically, he can get into the paint at will. People want to do all the comparisons. I just think he's going to end up profiling in this sense, sort of like Giannis, in that there's going to be 5 guys trying to keep him out of the paint, and they're not going to be able to. He's physically undeniable at 20 years old, 6'11", 250 pounds, and that's only going to get better. Is he ever going to be a 2-time MVP and on Giannis's level? That's obviously a far cry from now, but the potential is there. He could be one of the great ones eventually. It's just got to keep working, like KD said.
I was looking at some statistics. Orlando struggling to score this season. We talked about the injuries. Is that kind of the biggest reason for why these offensive numbers not looking like you might expect from this Orlando team?
Yeah, so the shooting from the perimeter is an issue no matter what. Even I think when you get healthy, the team's going to come up a little bit short in that area. But it is we're the worst passing team in the league by far, and part of that is, and a lot of that goes back to injuries. We haven't had point guards on the floor, so essentially Franz Wagner, who is, learning on the job, and Paolo Banchero, you're running everything through those guys. They're not quite ready for that yet. And so we got Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony back last night. Anthony's been out since game 4 with an oblique injury. Those are 2 of your guards. And then Jalen Suggs, God bless him, he reminds me of Derrick Rose, just sort of stylistically. He's not obviously as good as Derrick Rose. I'm just doing kind of loose comparisons here, John. Just sort of profile comparisons. But the way he hits the deck after he attacks the basket every time, I mean, he's a rugged sort of football playing basketball player. And so, every 5 games, he's got something banged up on him. So you haven't had guys out there to organize the offense in the half court, and you haven't had perimeter shooting either. Turnovers have been a big issue for this team. And now the real kicker is Wendell Carter Jr. has been out for 7 of the last 8 games, and we've lost all 7 of the games. The one game he came back against Chicago, his old team, he played really well, and we won that basketball game. So to me, when Paolo Banchero's out, even when the backcourt is banged up, you can kind of make up for it. There are other places that you can get playmaking and scoring from. We don't have anybody else aside from Wendell Carter Jr. who gives you post defense, who gives you rebounding, who gives you toughness, good screen setting in the pick and roll game. And so we really miss him. He's been a big factor with his injury, and it's a right plantar fascia, and he will not play tomorrow either in Cleveland.
We're talking to Jake Chapman here on the Cavs Insider Podcast, your radio play-by-play voice of the Orlando Magic. Jake, you talked on a lot of times the offense going through Paolo Banchero, going through Franz Wagner, 2 young guys with obviously a lot of talent, but that's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation for young guys. I imagine that there will be some growing pains through that. How are both the team and Wagner and Banchero kind of navigating those growing pains?
Well, Wagner's banged up. I mean, it's funny. Jeff Turner on our television broadcast was conversing with some of the Minnesota's crew when they were in, and I'm not sure exactly who made the comparison, but Jeff brought it up, and I thought it was great. Franz plays like a 6'10" Manu Ginobili, the way he has that sort of jab stepping, Euro herky-jerky maneuvering in the lane. But what it means is, because he's slower than Manu was, he gets banged up. I mean, he's getting raked and his game is about dribble penetration. So it's been tough on him. I think the turnovers obviously are an issue as well. Like, these guys are better either off ball or having somebody set them up and 2-3 dribbles, attacking the basket, short rolls, things like that. So I think it's good for their development, right? But it's not good for winning games right now. And that's what you see. I think when you start to get your guards back and having a full complement, everybody will be able to slide back into the roles that they're supposed to be in. But right now, you've just got Franz been the only one who's played all through the season. Right now, you've just got way too much of a minutes load and a usage load, basically on Franz specifically. Paolo's just working his way back on both of those guys. And the guards, I think, will certainly help that. And the other part, John, is that when you're talking about 5-6 guys out every night, now Caleb Houston started a game the other night in Brooklyn. No offense to Caleb, but he's a 2nd-round pick. He's 19 years old. He's not supposed to be starting games yet at this point in his NBA career. He's supposed to be in Lakeland, working on his game. I mean, we've got developmental guys, 2-way guys, playing heavy minutes on a lot of nights. So it's kind of like Jamal Mosley arrives at the arena each day and says, okay, who do I have today? And then let's see what we get. And I'll give you one more thing about it, too, is as you get guys back, darn well, John, there's no practice time anymore in the NBA. No. There's no time to work out any of this stuff. We don't shoot around very often, so we're doing a bunch of ballroom walkthroughs at hotels and stuff. And, the only way to work through these kinks is to do it on the floor, and we just haven't had the opportunity to yet.
Is there any concern about maybe a lot of the minutes or a lot of that for lack of a better term, like pressure being put on the young guys, Wagner and Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr. and all these guys that, obviously you're waiting on the injuries and for everything to kind of come together, but that's a big ask for them. And are there any concerns about you want to bring these guys along the right way, right? But you still have to roll 5 guys out there every night.
Yeah, and I think adding injuries to injuries is a concern. But then I also think you start to get to a point where you're like, okay, are we developing bad habits? If you've got 9 guys every night and you've got guys playing out of position, like Bol, for instance, has played 3 positions so far this year, and he's been good at all of them. Like his numbers are very efficient, but like it's too much too fast for him. His head's got to be spinning right now. So I think I don't think you're too concerned about this thing going completely south and sideways quickly because it's a good group. And Jamal Mosley is perfectly equipped to handle this. He's like relentlessly optimistic. And they believe in him and they fight for him. We've had about 1 game this year where, the second half, it was just kind of like, okay, we're ready to get out of here. Most nights, we've lost a lot of close games, and most nights, whoever it is who is out there on the floor scrapping till the end. So there's still a lot of optimism, and there are areas of improvement that you're seeing, but it's just you haven't really been able to build anything sustainable yet.
Well, I've seen firsthand what that culture can mean in a locker room. So good to see that coming from Mosley and see that permeate throughout the dressing room there. You touched on Bol. That was a perfect segue there because that was kind of the next question that I had. I asked Evan Mobley about this because Bol had a great block on Mobley in that first matchup against the Cavs earlier this season. 7'2". How has he kind of transformed from, I'll call it kind of a quote unquote novelty to he's a bona fide rotation and a productive rotation player for the Magic?
Yeah, I'll go back to Durant too, because he commented on this. He said, first of all, like it's just been kind of the same thing. It was injuries, it was G League stints. When he was in Denver, and Doc Rivers actually said this the other day too. He said, I watched basically every minute of Bol's career in Denver, and there weren't many of them. And he said that Austin, when his son was his teammate in Denver, and he kept telling him like, Dad, whenever he gets to the next team, and was always whenever he gets to the next team, he's going to show people what he can do. And he's immensely talented, obviously 7'2", 7'8" wingspan, but the way he can dribble and his jumper is like beautiful. There's still some structural stuff to work on. He's not great moving laterally. His pick and roll defense isn't great. He's still learning the game, but it's been a matter of getting an opportunity, which he didn't get in Denver because that was a championship contending team. And he got guys like, I don't know, Jokic in front of him. And he was also hurt. He was dealing with injuries. And look, I mean, he played like 9 games or even less, I think, at Oregon, if I recall, before he went down with a foot injury. So he just needs reps and he needs confidence, and he's starting to gain that. And I'm not sure he should be starting and playing as many minutes as he is right now on our team, but dude, his efficiency numbers are crazy. Offensively, he's really, really good. He turns the ball over a lot. And like I said, there are some kind of blind spots there, but the talent is there. And KD was like, anybody who knew that guy, when given the opportunity, was going to be able to do some stuff because he can do things that like nobody else on planet Earth can do. It's so fun to watch night in and night out. Not quite a unicorn, but he's getting there.
Jake Chapman joining us here on the Cavs Insider Podcast, the radio play-by-play voice of the Orlando Magic. Cavs and Magic from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse on Friday night. All right, Jake, you're an NBA guy, obviously an NBA lifer here. The Cavs swinging a big trade to acquire Donovan Mitchell. From the outside perspective, look, give us your thoughts on the Cavs. What do you think from them, and what are some things that you saw in that first matchup that you're kind of anxious to see here on Friday night?
Yeah, I told anybody who would listen when they pulled that deal that it was a winner because he is such a good dude. It was going to work because I thought no matter what, he and Garland were going to be able to make it work in the backcourt. I think that was maybe some people's initial concern. People seem to think that because he's not like the greatest defender, that he's like a selfish player. And that I think you guys are finding out.
Absolutely not.
Furthest from the truth. He's a great leader. When I was in Detroit, they used to let us talk to the guys for pre-draft workouts. Some places still do. And when he came in, this was when Stan was in Detroit. He came in, it was me and like Vince Ellis and Vinny Goodwill and just a small group of Detroit media. And he had us like eating out of the palm of his hand, dude, when he was coming out of Louisville. He's so polished and he's such a good leader. And that goes back to his dad in the Mets clubhouse. I think. I mean, he's known what it took to be a pro since he was a kid. So I had a feeling it would work. I think it's really going to be interesting, and I know that you guys are all over it, and everybody's reported it. How good can Mobley be? Because I think he can be like beyond all-star good, like superstar good. We know how good he is defensively. What happens when his offensive game takes that next step? And we're starting to see it this year. Is it going to be something where when you have all these other better options offensively, frankly, I mean, I think it's maybe the best backcourt in the league, or close to it. We'll give Golden State their due, but they're pretty damn good. And then also like Jared Allen, I mean, is it the perfect place for Mobley to grow? And how does that look? I think that ultimately will be what judges the ceiling of the team. That, and I still think there's a hole at the small forward spot. I don't know if the guy in Los Angeles wants to come and fill it, but it's there. It's there. I'm not crazy about. And if you could take all four of the guys who play the small forward spot or whatever and combine them into one, I think it might work. But I'm not sold on really any of them yet. Dean Wade is my favorite of the bunch right now, as far as just the fifth guy out there.
That's definitely the question that we're asking ourselves here in Cavalier land. Yeah, a lot of good, a handful of guys that really kind of all bring something different to the table, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're seeing some of the lineups and the mashups that we've gotten so far. Injuries also playing a little bit of a role in that. All right, Cavs and Magic coming at you Friday night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Got to ask you this too: what's it like calling a game against your childhood team that you grew up rooting for?
That's changed so much, John, since I got into the business, just because when I first started working for the Magic, and I wasn't calling games, obviously, I was a radio producer. That was back in like 2008, 2009, when LeBron was there the first time. And so I remember I got the job full time, and we had Dwight. So we're the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. And I was like, oh my God, like what's going to happen when we play? And then it took me like 3 paychecks from the Orlando Magic where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm a Magic fan. Like it honestly, it changed. I sold out so quickly. It's just, like, oh, I get a ring if we win a championship. Yeah, I'm rooting for that team. But when I was with the Pistons, I did call a game in Cleveland, and that was a dream come true. Being in what at the time was Quicken Loans Arena, what in my head is still Gund Arena, what is now, what Rocket Mortgage. That was so cool. And so I'm not traveling right now, so I don't get to experience it again, but I've had that experience before. And I think hopefully I'll be back out on the road soon, just because it's tough now. Like I have a life here, and traveling isn't quite what it was when I was, in my younger 30s or late 20s, when I was like, yeah, cool, let's travel. I've got, it can be difficult to be out on the road all the time, but you call a better game. And then I've worked in Detroit. I've got family in Cleveland. I've got family in Philly. Like I would love to be able to just tour the country with the Orlando Magic and see all my friends and family. So that's kind of the good part about doing it, but we'll see, hopefully in the future.
Well, Jake, appreciate your time, my friend. Enjoy the game on Friday night, and we look forward to getting the Magic a little healthier as the season transpires, and I'm sure that you guys are too. Any final thoughts that you're expecting to see here from the matchup on Friday night?
No, it's I would expect to see a somewhat desperate team. Like I said, we got Markelle and Cole back yesterday. They probably still have minutes limits on them. Won't have Wendell Carter Jr., still won't have Chuma Okeke. I don't think Jalen Suggs, Gary Harris. So still a very long injury report. So make sure you block off enough time in the pregame show for that.
All right. Appreciate your time, my friend. Enjoy the game. Cavs and Magic coming at you from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse Friday night. We will check in with you on this channel on the Cavs Insider YouTube page with JB Bickerstaff's pregame comments before tip-off. I appreciate your time, my friend. We will look forward to doing this one again. Always enjoy catching up with you, and we're glad to see that you're doing some great things down there in Florida, and we appreciate the local connection. I can't tell you how much we enjoyed connecting with you here. For Jake Chapman and John Rutter, thanks for joining us here on the Cavs Insider Podcast. We'll see you Friday night from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.